Hey y'all, this is Taylor Ursula of That's So Pisces, and it's time to talk about our Boxing Day post-Christmas Cancer full moon. So let's do it. So as I just mentioned, this is a full moon that aligns with our sort of Western Christmas time holiday here, as well as with Boxing Day over in the UK. So there's certainly a feeling of like heightened emotions happening at a time of gathering. Super chill. This moon in Cancer is ruling itself. And so this is maybe one of the first lunations we've had that is outside of that sort of conundrum, convoluted chain of command that we were talking about for several weeks there. And because it's on the cardinal axis now, because it's in Cancer, it's making a trine to Saturn when it enters Cancer, which is a nice change from all of the squares to Saturn that we faced in Sagittarius season. This full moon in Cancer is taking place at 4 degrees on December the 26th. And after opposing the sun, it makes a sextile to Jupiter, still retrograde in Taurus at 5 degrees. This is just a couple days away from where Jupiter will station direct at 5 degrees. So there's something we are kind of wrapping up in that conversation, getting clear on about that Jupiter retrograde, or starting to sort of see the edges of. On this day, we have Chiron stationing direct in Aries at 15 degrees. So there's something about the stillness, the slowness of this body, this asteroid in space, that might really bring us into a place of contemplation about where we stand with those sort of early origin story wounds that we carry now. Again, this is all happening around a time of what is traditionally familial celebration or celebration with loved ones, friends, whatever chosen family looks like to us. So there may be a lot of focus at this time amongst these gatherings, or perhaps despite these gatherings, or perhaps outside of these gatherings. Perhaps we're not taking part in family gatherings at this time or celebrations with others. And perhaps that's part of what's surfacing as well. So there's something, regardless of where we are in relationship to the traditional celebrations of this time, there's something we're reflecting on about who we are allowed to be, what that brings up for us, how we've worked with that phenomenon, etc. This is also the day that Mercury retrograde makes its second square to Neptune in Pisces at 25 degrees. That first square took place while Mercury was direct and Neptune was retrograde, and that happened at the Gemini full moon at 4 degrees. That took place on the 27th of last month. So an interesting connection to have these back-to-back full moons, both sort of shrouded in this Mercurial Neptunian cluster. Back at that Gemini full moon, which was all about information, ruled by Mercury, we didn't really know what was what. We were maybe making room for multiple truths. We were needing to sort of rely on what we know when in the face of what others are trying to tell us, things of this nature. This full moon is, again, self-ruled. So Mercury isn't in charge of the emotions that we're experiencing at this time. Maybe that allows us a bit of groundedness in the face of this mystery or this unknown that we are confronted with now. Maybe there's a lot of changeability in our mood happening at this time based on what that square brings up for us in this second pass, with Mercury now retrograde and Neptune direct. This square will happen a final time on Monday, January 8th. So both planets will be direct at that time. Mercury will be in the process of clearing its retrograde shadow. And so this may be the second piece of a three-part story. Some notable events take place after this full moon. On Wednesday, the 27th, we have the moon in Cancer come into square Chiron in Aries at 15 degrees. Chiron having just stationed direct the day before at the full moon. So part of this full moon lunation and the sort of release it's moving into when it begins waning may be about how we begin to express whatever that Chiron thing is that's surfacing. Maybe we're able to make sense of something. Maybe we are emotionally reacting to something. Maybe we are initiating some sort of exchange with another about what that pain has looked like. Maybe we are generating something from that, even if that might be a release of that Chiron thing. Just being delightfully vague right now. On that same day, Wednesday, is when Mercury retrograde meets Mars again. Now, this is interesting because Mercury first met Mars back in Scorpio, which was being ruled by Mars. That was Mars's first return to Scorpio in 2 years' time. They met at 11 degrees, and this took place right on the heels of our final Taurus full moon eclipse, which was at 5 degrees. At that time, we were very sharp-tongued, we were very strategic in our thinking, and we were perhaps very precise in our attack, whatever that may have looked like, whatever themes that may have pertained to, wherever that lands in our charts. 5 degrees of Taurus is where Jupiter is days away from stationing direct, and Mercury is now retrograde in meeting this Mars, who is now in Sagittarius being ruled by Jupiter. So the themes of Mercury meeting Mars in this way are quite different than they were when they met in Scorpio. Mars here in Sagittarius is a lot more philosophical, is a lot more adventurous, is much more gregarious, and maybe inclined to act before it looks, kind of that leap before you look vibe. Mercury being retrograde and in its sign of detriment in Sagittarius means that we might not have all the facts, or we might be sort of in our own version of the story right now. Now, this too is sort of an opening of a story, because once Mercury stations direct on the 1st, it will come through and make another conjunction to Mars. So we might want to be mindful as much as we can be at this time of what we feel maybe compelled to act on or leap into before we know the full story. Don't worry, there will still be plenty of us popping off without understanding why. Later that day, we have the moon in Cancer make a sextile to Uranus in Taurus. So there may be some sort of new idea or new awakening within our emotions that we're able to make space for at this time. And maybe that's a result of expressing what is coming up with that square to Chiron earlier in the day. On Thursday, we have the moon in Cancer make a square to the North Node in Aries at 24 degrees. Perhaps we're being made aware of how our emotions are currently playing a part in our current trajectory of that North Node story. There's something about our emotions at this time that are able to create some sort of crossroads. And it may be that what we choose at this time has some impact down the line in terms of what it is we are trying to activate within us and allow to be initiated. The moon then makes a trine to Neptune. It's nice to have an easy aspect to Neptune happening here, where we've had so many squares. Now, by easy, I mean that we're not confronted by Neptunian energy. We are embracing it, whether that's for better or for worse. Again, revisiting that Neptune of spectrum, that spectrum of Neptune, rather, we may be leaning more towards this choice is overwhelming and I feel the need to escape somehow, and I'm doing so easily. Or it may lead us to this choice is frustrating or difficult, but I feel confident in making it, and I'm able to lean into the creative, compassionate side of things. The moon then makes a trine to Venus in Scorpio at 28 degrees. So there is some sort of connection to others we're able to make, even if it's not all of the others who are a part of the story that we're currently navigating. It is still others we may consider chosen family, others who are like our ride or die. I'm thinking about Venus and Scorpio, which is like, I am there with you till the end. And so it may be that we've kind of find our true group, our true, I'm not going to say the word tribe, our true cohort. There's a word that I'll use. We might find sort of like our true pals in this moment, especially if we're making a change, if we're choosing a path away from something that feels comfortable in Libra, some sort of relational balance we've been upholding for no reason. That may separate us from some of the people involved in that situation or in that dynamic, but moving away from that, as difficult as it may be, pulls us closer to the people who will really be there for us no matter what, or love us as we are truly becoming now. And then the moon opposes Pluto. So Pluto is still at 29 degrees of Capricorn. Pluto won't be moving into Aquarius until January. And so last time we were able to find some solace in Pluto, some understanding, right? That moon in Pisces was making a sextile to Pluto here in Capricorn. Now the moon is opposing it. Now the moon is confronting it. Maybe there is some call to try to root into and ground what it is we're moving through, even though it feels really daunting, even though we don't know what's going to happen next. We're not sure who has the power now, right? If we're making changes in our relationships to others, we might be really thrown by who has the upper hand in this dynamic now. And that's something for us to come to terms with. In these final days of December, Friday, we have Venus moving into Sagittarius, where Venus and Jupiter are now in mutual reception. And on Saturday, we have Jupiter stationing direct in Taurus. So we're ending the year with maybe some slowness, right? Because as we know, with Venus entering into Sagittarius, she will soon be squaring Saturn. And with Jupiter stationing direct, that's a planet moving very slowly. And Mercury will be stationing direct on the 1st, just a couple days later. So both planets moving quite slowly, Venus moving slowly into this, because of Saturn. So even though we're sort of ending on maybe a quieter note, we're seeing some shifts that are really opening us up for 2024. Okay, let's do a recap of where we began with the Sagittarius new moon, how that evolved with the Pisces first quarter moon, and now what's coming to fruition or culmination in some way in the full moon. I'll see you there. Okay, so here we have our recap from our current lunation cycle that opened up with the Sagittarius new moon. We then saw how that energy was beginning to accumulate at the Pisces first quarter moon. We had this lovely appearance by strength, sort of opening us up to this new energy we're working toward in 2024. We talk a lot more about that in the Capricorn season video if you haven't caught that yet. And so let's go ahead and get a look at what we've got for this full moon. If you missed either of these videos, take a moment and check them out as well, and we'll meet you back here to do our next poll. Okay, let's get started. All right, so a quick reminder that if you are hoping to pull along with us, you can do so by heading to my website, priestessbaby.com. In my shop, there is a free PDF guide to all of these moon polls. If you would like to deepen your work with my prompts, you can also find my 2024 planner in my shop as well. And that comes in a digital copy as well as a physical. So for this full moon, we are asking about a situation culminating now. We are asking how we can make space for this situation or revelation. We're asking how what we are able to celebrate in the light of this moon. And lastly, what we are able to release in the light of this moon. Okay, so we'll see how this is sort of fleshing out our broader lunation narrative. Okay, situation culminating now. How to make space for this. What to celebrate, what to release or prepare to release. Okay, we talked about finishing up the Sagittarius lunation cycle. We talked about how we're now out of Sag season and we are making the trines and the sextiles to Saturn, right? The planets in Capricorn making sextiles to Saturn and being ruled by Saturn. The Pisces first quarter moon being trine to Saturn, as well as this full moon in Cancer. So we have ended a Sagittarian narrative, and we're seeing that the situation culminating now is about temperance. Okay, this is upright. This might be that we're coming back into balance of some sort, right? We started off the Sagittarius new moon cycle with the Magician. We were talking about having the right tools to kind of make things happen at this time, or we were reviewing what those tools would even look like. And I love thinking about the Magician being ruled by Mercury. It's a mercurial card, and we have Temperance being ruled by Jupiter's, and Jupiter and Mercury are opposites, right? And so we've, the sun is opposite the moon at the full moon, right? And the sun is with the moon at the new moon. So we have the opposition between the sun and the moon now. We have the opposition between Mercury and Jupiter in the sense of these cards here. We started off looking at what tools we needed, or getting a sense of what tools we would want to accumulate and what that might allow us to do. And so here we are considering the doing. If we are upright, we're thinking about how we've re-entered into balance. We've had the tools to make things happen, even if it's been a little bit chaotic, even if Mercury's squaring Neptune. We have figured out, even if it's been messy, and it probably has been messy, right? Oppositions to Uranus abound, all of those squares to Saturn from the mutable axis. It's been messy, but perhaps we have figured out a new sense of balance for ourselves. This is a major arcana card. This might be something we are just getting a sense of and is extending beyond this full moon. If we think about this reversed, then perhaps the square from Mercury to Neptune, perhaps all like the Mars conjunction with Mercury and then Mars squaring Neptune, perhaps we're seeing where we are currently out of balance. Maybe we've gotten a good idea of what elements we are connected to, and we're realizing that we are not connected to others. We're getting a sense that there's something within ourselves that we need to reflect on now. And we talked about that in the transit portion, this certainly being like, again, the Neptunian vibe sort of bringing us into ourselves, maybe reflecting on what things have meant to us, what things mean to us moving forward, what we want for ourselves. So we're getting some idea of maybe, again, recalibrating, or what it would take for us to recalibrate, recognizing where we are out of calibration, where we're out of sync, and what elements we may need to rebalance for ourselves. How we can make space for this situation or revelation. Page of Pentacles. Tap into our ideas. This is certainly giving the sense that we need more earth, right? If this is how we're going to make space for this revelation, we might start with Pentacles. Maybe we've been caught up in all of the Sagittarian nature of the holiday season. Maybe we've been caught up in, again, all of those squares and getting really philosophical with things, or getting very intellectual with things. Maybe we've been feeling a lot of our emotions. This is a Cancer full moon. And so we are being asked to make space for whatever is coming into balance, or is shifting out of balance, or is being recognized as out of balance, by paying attention to what kind of possibilities show up in the tangible realm. What ideas do we have that are tangible? What possibilities are we currently connected to? What opportunities might be opening up at this time? What opportunities do we want to open up at this time, right? If we are trying to get grounded, if we're trying to tap into the tangible, then we might want to be paying attention to what earthly opportunities become available to us now, whether that's financial, whether that's opportunities to embody, right? To shift into our physical sense. Maybe we need to reroute, right? Maybe we're feeling the reversal of this. Maybe we're feeling like we're not open to new tangible ideas right now. Everything emotionally, spiritually, intellectually is out of whack for me. And so I'm feeling really blocked in terms of what these new ideas might look like. So just tuning inward to ourselves to get a sense of where this physical imbalance exists within us so that we can recenter what we need to feel balanced. What I am able to celebrate in the light of this moon is the moon. Okay, so we are leaning into some of the Piscean nature of things. We are leaning into what is, oh, let me think. If this is a celebration, then I think we might have done some of this work. Maybe this Cancer full moon, maybe this square to Chiron and Chiron stationing direct and all of that. Maybe that's getting us to do this introspection. The moon is scary because it's our subconscious space and we don't know what lives there, and we think monsters live there. And we tend to want to rush past whatever subconscious stuff comes up. Mercury squaring Neptune is going to create a real moon vibe. I don't know what's real. If I investigate what's actually within me, I might be confronted by something. I might not be ready for what I find in there. I might open up bigger feelings that I'm really not prepared to anchor or hold space for or be responsible for at this time. I don't know how to own that. And so, like, that is in itself the celebration. Can we go in and find what's in the subconscious to bring it to the surface, to bring back wholeness? Have we been doing this work already? Is this what's been coming up with maybe the oppositions to Uranus, all the squares to Saturn, all the squares to Neptune from the mutable axis? And we've been called to get really clear on what's impacting me. Maybe this connects us with like a chariot journey. I'm kind of like, who's under here? I'm not gonna spoil it. Maybe this brings us back to us ending our chariot journey in terms of getting to know our conscious and unconscious processes, the subconscious sort of existing within the middle space, right? Perhaps we are celebrating that we've been through this moon journey, we've been, again, going within to find out what kind of lurks in there so as not to be afraid of it. And this makes me think, all right, maybe something's out of balance, but I've been in the emotional space. I've been within the intuitive psychic space, and I've brought things to the surface in order to purify them, integrate them, embrace them. And that's what's allowing me to recognize maybe the physical imbalance that I'm experiencing now, or the fact that I need to anchor into something physical. This might be showing us that we are, even as things are a bit chaotic around this moon, even as things are uncertain, we've tapped into ourself in order to get clear on what part we're playing, right? I don't know what y'all are doing. And this takes me back to the transit portion where we talked about, like, I don't really know what everyone else is up to, but I know that I've investigated my own emotions, I've investigated my own feelings, and I'm clear on where I stand. So I've done this work within myself. I'm not resisting, and if maybe we are resisting this, but again, we're talking about a celebration, and so we are ultimately seeing some positive energy from this moon. Perhaps we are getting to the end of this fog, right? Neptunian fog, absolutely, and we're getting clear on where we need to move. What we can release in the light of this moon. Beautiful. Yeah, this feels really welcome. All that Chiron action, again, bringing so much to the surface, and again, like seeing that in the moon, going in, choosing to go within, recognizing I'm in pain, recognizing I have agency in that, recognizing I can go look for what's lurking within me, and allow those things to feel known so that I can feel whole, even if I can't really feel whole in whatever circumstance I'm in with others. We're mourning that. We're releasing the pain that we've maybe felt with those situations that involve other people, with some of those relationships that have changed. Again, what I mentioned about oh my gosh, train of thought. See, it's this full moon is like evaporating all my thoughts. What we said about the square to the nodes that we're experiencing with this moon, after the square to Chiron, sort of recognizing that we may be putting ourselves on a path and maybe we have to make changes away from relationships that are no longer sustainable, that are no longer making space for, or that, let's say contributing to the sense of imbalance that we're in, contributing to the self-doubt and the like avoidance of self that we're in. If those relationships have had to end, we need to release that grief. Like we need to maybe allow ourselves to be confronted by this and just like allow these petals to fall, but knowing that we are essentially like releasing this in order to be free of it, right? We will be moving into the waning moon, the third quarter moon, after that the dark moon, where we are truly like releasing all from that previous cycle. And so perhaps we need to release our fear of this. We can release our resistance of the Three of Swords. Maybe we've been holding out. Maybe we've been thinking, let me just keep trying and I'll this will gloss over, or I'll be able to fix this, or something positive will happen. And maybe we've really gotten to the point where what we were fighting for is no longer going to exist in the shape that it did. So maybe we've resisted this for some time. Maybe we've been trying to hold on, and now it's time to say, okay, you know what? I can't continue carrying that the way that I have been. It's time to address this, acknowledge this, allow it to be, and let it go. Ooh, okay. Happy full moon to y'all. Please let me know how this lands for you in the comments. I would love to hear about what your full moon is bringing up for you in your chart. If you enjoyed this, please like, please share, please subscribe. I would love to see you back next week to talk about that third quarter moon that we'll be having in Libra, which takes place right after the new year. So I hope to see you then.